Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Tuesday, July 3rd. This is Gina McGuire. Over the next couple of days, we will continue to see very hot and dry conditions affect the Great Basin, along with gusty winds, low humidity, and high hains, especially today across Utah into parts of southern and eastern Nevada. We will also see isolated thunderstorms possibly develop over parts of northeast Nevada into northern Utah. However, these thunderstorms again will remain very isolated but be dry and produce gusty outflow winds. As we move through Wednesday and Thursday, the main wind and low RH potential will be across Nevada into parts of southwest Utah. However, the bigger story will be the return of thunderstorms to southern and eastern Utah starting on Wednesday and Thursday, with activity really increasing as we go Friday into the weekend. Any thunderstorms Wednesday and Thursday, again, likely being isolated, but they will be dry and produce gusty outflow winds in areas where fuels have been very critical under very hot and dry conditions recently. The last 24 hours, we kind of had a smattering of very light precip across the Great Basin and only a few lightning strikes into parts of southeast Idaho. Fire activity yesterday was light to moderate across the Great Basin with 11 new starts reported. However, we did see significant growth on our new and large existing fires across Utah into northeast Nevada, with even a few new fires up into Idaho. Looking at the precipitation, over the last 7 days, the image on the left shows any precipitation was really in the far northern part of the Great Basin, and even over the last 2 weeks, we've seen below normal precipitation across Idaho and Wyoming, and very dry conditions with no precipitation over the southern half to 2/3 of the Great Basin. As we look at how this affected our fuel conditions, ERCs have been expectedly on the rise and have increased above the 97th percentile over almost all of the Arizona Strip, southern, central, and eastern Utah, and these ERCs are near or above records for the time of year. Moving further west into southern and eastern Nevada and up into parts of northeast Nevada, ERCs are climbing rapidly and are above the 80th to 90th percentile, with even some areas closer to eastern or northeast Nevada approaching records for the time of year. The satellite loop from this morning shows a trough of low pressure dropping into the Pacific Northwest. Out ahead of this trough is where we see this line of cloud cover and a few isolated light showers this morning over northeast Nevada into northern Utah and southwest Wyoming. It's this band here where we could see any isolated thunderstorms throughout this afternoon and this evening, with dry conditions over the rest of the southern 2/3 of the Great Basin. Again, ahead of this trough, we'll also see very windy and dry conditions over eastern and southern Nevada and across Utah, which will continue to affect our existing fires. So looking at the weather pattern later this afternoon, again, you can see that trough in the north with that area from northeast Nevada across northern Utah, where we see the potential for isolated thunderstorms. These thunderstorms will be dry and also be in areas where we will continue to see gusty winds, low humidity, along with erratic gusts from the thunderstorms. Otherwise, very dry conditions and unstable conditions, especially across Utah, with the higher winds and also high hains over many of the high elevations. Therefore, we will continue to see growth on our fires due to these very dry, breezy, and high hains conditions. As we look at the relative humidity today, we're looking at single digits over much of Utah into southern and eastern Nevada, a little bit higher up north. You can see from the wind picture on the right where the strongest winds will be today is mainly across Utah and into parts of eastern Nevada. We'll also see gusty northwest winds up across Idaho as well. However, relative humidity is a little bit higher. As we move into Wednesday, a trough drops south along the west coast, and this will allow for winds to increase again over parts of Nevada as southwesterly flow increases, and also continue with unstable conditions across Utah with those high hains over western and northern Utah. But the main story as we go Wednesday through the weekend will be the return of moisture from the south, and you can start to see that moisture move into southern and eastern Utah as we move into Wednesday. Therefore, we do have some high risks for lightning as it initially returns to these areas. However, coverage will still likely be fairly isolated. Looking at the relative humidity on Wednesday, you can see teens to single digits over much of Nevada and Utah. And you can see where those gusty winds are on Wednesday, mainly across Nevada. However, further east, again, the main story, even though winds will be lighter, will be the high hains over western Utah and that return of moisture with gusty outflow winds with thunderstorms over eastern Utah. As we move into Thursday, you can see that trough still off the coast, and you can still see some moisture moving into parts of Utah. Again, we may have a little bit of drier air that tries to work in on Thursday, so coverage of thunderstorms will still remain isolated over eastern Utah on Thursday. Looking at relative humidities, really the same story, single digit to low teens RHs across the area. Winds on Thursday will be lighter than what we will see the next couple of days, but still breezy south to southwest winds will continue over the western two-thirds of the Great Basin, and these higher winds over southeast Utah are really more indicative of outflow gusts associated with thunderstorm activity. Overall forecast amounts of precipitation, you can see that return of thunderstorms over Utah, any precipitation that we do see will be very light and scattered around, so most areas will only see a brief increase in relative humidity with really not much rainfall expected. As we go Friday through the weekend, conditions really look to get more critical across Utah, as we will likely see thunderstorms moving further north and west and also increasing in coverage. We have the main moisture still over Arizona, so what we're expecting in southern Utah is again going to be on the drier side along with parts of the Arizona Strip, so we have some high risk for lightning on Friday. We may see also some breezy winds as you move into Idaho and parts of western Nevada ahead of that trough. As we move into Saturday, the area of high pressure really expands, allowing that moisture to move north and west, so we'll likely see thunderstorms return to southern, southeast Nevada and continue in the Arizona Strip and southern Utah. Again, this is really when coverage will be increasing, so we'll see a lot more lightning as we go through the weekend, with most of the moisture still remaining off to the south. As we move into Sunday, you can see the image on the left how that moisture really expands northward into northeast Nevada, even parts of northern Utah, and continuing further south. Right now it's uncertain as to how wet some of these thunderstorms might be in the south, so we don't have any high risk yet for Sunday, but we certainly could be adding some, especially as these thunderstorms initially return to eastern, northeast Nevada, and northern Utah. So again, keep watching the fire potential outlook, as we will likely be seeing some high risk later in the weekend in certain areas, and we'll certainly be seeing lightning across the Great Basin. Same story for Monday. The lightning pushes a little bit further north and west, a better potential in far southern areas that we may start to see a little bit more moisture out of these thunderstorms, at least higher humidity, and some areas possibly even seeing some wetting rain. So we're going to continue to monitor this and see how fast that moisture really returns. But certainly we're looking for an increase in lightning as we go Friday through the weekend and into next week, therefore the better potential for additional starts. 7-day amount of precipitation still shows fairly light conditions across the Great Basin, again with that heavier precipitation further east and south. So we'll continue to monitor this, as we'll certainly have several days where we'll have the potential for drier thunderstorms. Looking at the 8 to 14 day outlook, which takes us into the third week in July, above normal temperatures still the story across much of the U.S., and we're seeing that above normal precipitation signature move into southern areas of the Great Basin, a little bit more indicative that the monsoon moisture that starts to move in will eventually become a little bit more established, bringing some moisture to areas that really need it. But we're still looking at another at least 3 to 6 days of the potential for increased lightning starts and spread across the Great Basin while these thunderstorms are still on the drier side. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.